Dear students, parents, friends and colleagues, let me welcome you all to the Department of Anthropology's annual Diploma and Award ceremony, where we honor and celebrate the students who are graduating this year. The central idea in anthropology is to try to explain in local context why people think and act as they do. Thinking big and thinking small at the same time.
Anthropology goes from asking questions about the way social life affects cellular behavior to thinking about the way power affects the relationship between nations.
Anthropology is a study of human existence, human interaction, human culture.
Human rights work, clinical psychology, the new digital age we live in, or for just anything that you do.
Anthropologists today work in so many places, and they work in the non-profit sector, development organizations across the world.
And we need, in the academy, in the business world, in the technology world, trained as anthropologists to understand what the social world is becoming and how it is changing us. This is a great time to be an anthropologist.
This year, we are blessed with a long list of graduating students, and we are very proud of all of you. This is a highly unusual year in several respects. We are not sitting together in the beautiful surroundings of the New Guinea Sculpture Garden, where we usually have our graduation ceremonies. Instead, I'm speaking to you via camera in the way that we have all become used to in the past year during the pandemic. However, there is hope, and we are all thrilled by the news that campus will return to normal in-person operation from September this year. The other unusual circumstance is that we did not have a graduation ceremony in 2020. So this year, we will present the diplomas and awards of all students who graduated both in 2020 and this year. Now, a graduation ceremony is a time for celebration of your achievements as students in our department. It's also a time for reflection on what you have learned, how you have changed, and indeed, where you're all going. The past year has been most unusual and most eventful, while at the same time strangely uneventful, while we've all been sheltering in place. So let me take the opportunity today to reflect on what I see as some of the most important events of the past year. The global pandemic, of course, and also the racial reckoning in the US that was prompted by the protest after the murder of George Floyd on May 25, 2020. I'll take a few moments to reflect on what these events have revealed about the way we relate to one another, how we live together, how we love, fight, and argue as individuals and as communities. That is, after all, what anthropologists have been grappling with for many decades and generations. Now, the pandemic has been a tremendous challenge for everybody. While we mourn the loss of life and the suffering that this continues to cause across the country and the world, I would like to begin by saying that I am incredibly proud of the way that our students and our faculty have pulled through all of this, through endless Zoom days, staring at a screen and meeting incessant deadlines while holed up at home. Many a time I have felt, and I'm sure you have felt too, that this was like running really fast on a treadmill without actually moving. And for many of our students who are impatiently waiting to begin in-person fieldwork, this year has been especially difficult. I want to also extend a special thanks to our wonderful staff in the department who've gone out of their way to adapt to new routines and to assist students and faculty while also being at home, while also taking care of their own families. Thank you. The pandemic has in many ways turned the values we attach to certain terms and to certain acts on their head. So let me mention a few of those. For instance, Before March 2020, the term social distancing was never used as a positive, but always as a negative, as a sign of exclusion and stigma, something that was done to marginalized people. But overnight, it became a marker of virtue and of good citizenship. Similarly, the mask. Wearing a mask was commonly seen before as a sign of some level of mistrust of your fellow beings and their potential germs, perhaps, or, who knows, maybe even a sign that you were about to rob the store. Certainly, the thriving surveillance industry of face recognition technology was thrown into some sort of crisis all of a sudden. And let me also add a curious, maybe ironic twist to this tale. For decades, as you may know, Islamophobic public figures in Europe and elsewhere have warned, but especially in Europe, have warned that the use of the hijab among immigrant women posed a threat to European civilization, no less. In the past year, it seems, on the contrary though, that covering your face has been the savior of human civilization as we know it. Now, the pandemic has also challenged the idea of increasing global interaction as a path to a better future. For those who wanted stronger borders and national self-reliance, the pandemic became an argument for closing and controlling borders and movement. For most of us, however, the pandemic has cut us off from family and friends across the world, causing much hardship and stress. And the pandemic has been a tremendous stress testing of the ability of our networks, our institutions, our governments to deliver on their most basic function and promise, the protection of people and the care of citizens. Looking at home and across the world, it is sadly true that the suffering has been the worst and continues to be terrible in societies and communities that are the most unequal, the most polarized, and the most violent and segregated. Now, during the pandemic, we all learned some new skills, such as navigating Zoom, although, as you will know, that mute-unmute button is still a challenge for many, including myself. But we lost a lot of all the little things that makes life what it is. The facial expression, the body language, the small talk, the emotional charge for certain gestures, and the sheer joy of seeing and properly interacting with other humans. In short, all the informal dimensions of social interaction that one can only experience in person by being somewhere. And this is precisely what anthropologists are studying and striving to understand. All the tacit knowledge, the taken for granted ways of reacting and doing stuff, the strange alchemy, if you like, of social contact, including the conflicts and dynamics of gatherings, families, and communities. And you know by now that anthropological writing abounds with descriptions that transmit this immediacy. Titles like Being There, Informal Structures, Encounters, Collaborations, Friendships, and so on. There are books and essays on the importance of the face, of losing face, of saving face, of managing one's face. But we also know that in the past year, our primary clue to how to read strangers, as it were, or to figure out if that really is your neighbor standing there, was the somewhat limited variations in styles of mask wearing. So, to sum up, in some ways, a Zoom life under lockdown became a form of mechanical and toned-down version of life without the secret source of presence and the intensity and spontaneity that such presence entails. And here are some descriptions of online existence and online education that I collected over the past year. Here's a small list. Boring, formal, stiff, flat, without feeling, awkward, non-spontaneous, tense, slow, and the list goes on. So there is one lesson, at least one can take away from the past year, and it's precisely that life without that physical, speaking, acting, and emotional presence of other people, colleagues, friends, neighbors, or strangers is simply not very interesting, it's not very fun, and it's not very sustainable. Social presence is an irreducible factor in life, in any society, in any institution, And today, everyone understands that better than before. If it sounds like some form of advert for the importance of anthropology, well, that is precisely what it is. So when you go out there to launch yourself into a career path that you choose, make sure to explain that anthropology is a study of human interaction in all its breadth, depth and fullness, live, demasked and in person, and that you have been trained to think about and understand all these vital ingredients of life. Now, let me turn to how the enormous outpouring of grief and anger that followed the on-camera killing of George Floyd last year has affected all of us. The demonstrations, the rallies and other forms of protest across the country were unprecedented in scope, size and duration, and they did really change the mood and the conversation. It feels different this time, many said last summer and autumn. Terms like systemic racism, historical injustice, anti-blackness were now articulated, if somewhat awkwardly, by mainstream politicians, corporate leaders, and many others. Many university leaders and officials, also here at Stanford, committed themselves to diversifying faculty and student bodies and to create a more inclusive environment on campuses across the country. We all hope that this long overdue effort will bear fruit. One of the first results on this campus was the decision to turn our long-standing program in African American Studies into a fully fledged department, a decision that many of us felt should have been made decades ago. I would like to applaud and recognize the important role that many of our students played in that campaign. Many departments, including our own, also launched efforts to foreground histories of racial exclusion, of anti-blackness and historical inequalities across the globe, to include that into our curriculum, into our seminars, our discussions and our scholarship. And some of these efforts are described in our annual departmental newsletter that has race and anthropology as its primary theme. Please check it out on our website. But I want to reflect a little more on the protest in 2020, and there are two questions that come to mind. First, why did it happen at this point? What was different this time? And second, why did it take so long for so many people in this country, especially white people, to realize that systemic racism is a deep reality and to realize that social privilege and opportunity depends on the color of one's skin? Now, to begin with, it's obvious that footage from cell phones and police body cams now provide a new and, let's say, more visceral kind of evidence of the excessive and often deadly force that communities of color, and in particular black communities, face on a daily basis. However, there were other and larger forces at play in the past year. The deepening polarization of American life in the past decades, and especially the newfound confidence and visibility of armed white supremacists during Trump's presidency, have presented to many people an image of the country that they do not like or recognize. Some people, like our current president, will appeal to our better angels and say, no, this is not us, this is not America. Others will say, yes, this is also us, and we do not like what we see. And I think it was precisely that latter sentiment that made so many people take to the streets last summer to protest, including many of our students and faculty. The target of those protests was to stop police killings, but it was also a cry for another kind of future and a more inclusive and less violent society. Another striking feature of the past year's protests and polarization was that they revealed a deep generational gulf between people like you, our students, who are more diverse than ever and more committed to social justice, equality, and toleration of ethnic, racial, and sexual differences than an older generation. Generations that often are more attached to a conventional view of the somewhat less diverse society they grew up in. A society where it was commonplace to think of a more unified culture, to think of the all-American this and all-American that, of common taste and common preferences. Today's reality is that there are many Americas, there are many experiences, there are many histories, not all of them white, not all of them celebrating American greatness. And that fact causes anger and frustration. It drives the polarization of politics and public life in the country. But let us not forget that the deep divisions of society and memories, the realities of police brutality, the segregation of life and opportunity have been self-evident to Black communities and other communities of color for generations. The racial reckoning across America in the past year is, in reality, white America waking up to a reality that had existed in plain sight for decades and generations. That reality remained unseen by many, partly by design of cities and institutions for sure, but also by convenience and by self-interest. Whiteness is, as the Black legal scholar Cheryl Harris has famously put it, a form of property. In that whiteness allows easier access to resources and opportunities, wealth and education. Whiteness also affords what the famous Black sociologist and intellectual W.E.B. Du Bois called the psychological wages of whiteness, by which he meant the satisfaction that even the poorest white person can take from the fact that there are millions of Black people who are much worse off than her and him. And here is how Du Bois describes the wages of whiteness in a lesser-known essay called The Souls of White Folk from 1920. And it's a description that strikingly rings true even now, a century later. Here is Du Bois. So long then, as humble Black folk, voluble with thanks, receive barrels of old clothes from lordly and generous whites, there is much mental peace and moral satisfaction. But when the Black man begins to dispute the white man's title to certain alleged bequest of the fathers in wage and position, in authority and training, and when his attitude towards charity is sullen anger rather than humble jollity, and even worse, when he insists on his human right to swagger and swear and waste, after this, the white man's descent to hell is easy. It's a path of anger, cruelty, and murderous rage." Unquote. So what can we, as anthropologists, learn from the past year's events that really made visible to so many people that inequality and racist violence are woven into the very fabric of American society and many other societies across the world? Now, anthropologists have had much to say over the years about minorities and about acknowledging cultural differences. However, we must have as much, if not more, to say about how racial identities and putative racial majorities came into being, how they became natural or naturalized, how they became taken for granted. And that work is not yet done. In my view, anthropology must be a way of looking at the world that provokes us to reconsider our very categories of thought and evaluation. It must be a way of looking that doesn't make the mistake of thinking that that which appears normal, average, or mainstream is actually universal. It's a way of looking that asks you to be less provincial, more comparative, more global, in order to grasp and understand how the true human universals, relatedness, dependency, affection, love, a quest for dignity, but also hatred and resentment, have emerged in different parts of the world and how they keep changing. It's hard to imagine a more ambitious research agenda, and it's also a deeply humane agenda, as befits a discipline that studies the human condition as such. So dear students, I hope that you'll all go out in the world and wear the badge of anthropology with boldness and with pride and make the best possible use of anthropological ways of looking at the world and changing the world. Do it with force and imagination.
One of the things that this virus has taught us is how much anthropology matters. We've seen that social settings and cultural interpretations influence who falls ill, what people do when they fall ill, who has access to the vaccines, and who chooses to get vaccinated. The virus is a microscopic organism, a seemingly pure biological threat, and yet the social affects who dies of it and how. We've also seen that this isolation is hugely difficult for people, and that the presence of others changes the way that people experience their world in the most basic manner. Many people don't understand that. They don't understand that race and class and gender and ethnicity and religion profoundly alter the way that people understand the world around them and the way that they're treated by others. You do understand. You've acquired the anthropological attitude that you must first understand the social and cultural context in which people live before you judge them, and that you must not simply accept the world as it is. You now have the tools to change that world. Let me take a moment to give a personal example. Some years ago, I spent many hours on the north side of Chicago with unhoused psychotic women who'd been brutalized, and the institutions which were more concerned with disciplining them than understanding why they did what they did. I spent hours and hours trying to understand their point of view so that I could help the system provide the aid that I knew that they wanted. You will engage in very different projects, but your anthropological training should provide you with the skills to understand people with very different backgrounds and different identities, and to reach out in some way. We are so proud of you. We hope that you find your inspiration and realize the goals that you hold. Think about how you can make a difference. Good luck and Godspeed.
I want to offer a few words of recognition to our graduating doctoral and master's students. Our department is a complex critter, as you all are aware. The heart and soul of our department, you might not know, though, and as I've come to only fully understand over many years, is what? You, my friends, you, our graduate students, are the heart and souls of our department. Perhaps that's because you have so much skin in the game. You have hitched your futures to our department, and it is for you that so much of what we do as a department rises and falls. At no time has this been more the case than since the start of the pandemic. Over more than a year, marked by unparalleled and inequitably distributed disruptions, violence, and psychic pain, you have somehow or another, no doubt with the help of many others, persevered, kept pushing forward your academic goals to graduate and to fashion a new clearing for yourself. This is nothing short of remarkable. You have my deepest admiration. I'm no fan of the rhetoric of resilience, which, if I may remind you, is too often a linguistic sop deployed by the powerful to ignore their responsibilities and to keep populations pliant. You have not been resilient. No, anything but. You have been active, feisty, emotive agents in building your futures these last many months. And along the way, demanding that we as a department and a university do better by you and against bad actors in this U.S. empire which we are situated. It's been an honor to serve as your Director of Graduate Studies during this period. You have fortified my mood at times when I would have otherwise been inclined to fall into a dark place. Your research, your dissertations, your academic contributions to our discipline of anthropology, and the broader publics you seek to influence have been beacons that have kept me, and I believe others in our program, aloft. For that, I want to say thank you. Into your futures, I want to wish you well. You will always have a home here in our department. I look forward to seeing you back here in the future, as well as all the many places that you make home next. I look forward, most of all, as no doubt all our faculty and staff do, to relishing in your many successes ahead.
The Nancy Ogden Ortiz Memorial Prize for Outstanding Performance in Anthro 9DB, Theory and Cultural and Social Anthropology. Dryden Myers, Matthew Zheng. The Joseph H. Greenberg Prize for Undergraduate Academic Excellence, Jasmine Liu. The James Lowell Gibbs Jr. Award for Outstanding Service to the Department in Anthropology, Sadie Bank-LaFleur. Victoria Cheek, Lilith Frakes. The Robert Bayard Texter Award for Outstanding Creativity in Anthropology, Ethan Chua.
The Bernard J. Siegel Award for Outstanding Achievement in Written Expression by a PhD student in Anthropology goes to Grace Joe. The Robert Bayard Textor Award for Outstanding Creativity in Anthropology goes to Torrin Jones. The Anthropology Prize for Academic Performance goes to Claire Moss. The Anthropology Prize for Service to the Department goes to Shika Nera, Karim Ushakli, and Shandana Wahid. The Anthropology Award for Outstanding Graduate Research and Publication goes to Hannah Moots and Elliot Reichard. The 2021 Centennial Teaching Assistant Award goes to Ellie Colon and Pablo Seward de la Porta. The Anthropology Prize for Academic Performance by a master's student goes to Vibhav Mariwala.
Bachelor of Arts, Carolyn Ang. Philip Cooper. Kristen Henrik. Sophia Hu. Logan Posey. Elena Silva Nichols. And minor Brian J. Contreras. Ethan Chua. Lilith Frakes. Askabina Habtamu. Eunice Jung. Jasmine Liu. Kevin Riera. Wint Tazin, Nicola Vahil, Catherine Wolftech.
The 2020 MA students, Masters of Arts, are Stefania Monfield, Alexa Romano, Esteban Salmon Perelat. The 2021 Master of Arts graduates: Angela Leocata, Vibhav Mariwala, Sam Mall, Elliot Reichard, the 2020 Doctor of Philosophy and Anthropology graduates: Giswaldo Busaka, Shirkia Hawari, Sari Kane, Claudia Leotza, Dana Phelps, the 2021 Doctor of Philosophy and Anthropology graduates are Dean Shaheen, Justine Isavi, Torin Jones, Claire Moss, Sam Mall, Camilla Matsukato, Hannah Moots, Laura Ang, Dilshani Pereira, Nathra Samara Vikrama, Alana Springer, Tianyu Xie, Grace Zhou,
I just want to say congratulations. It's amazing that you made it to this point. Every year, anyway, at graduation, I congratulate all our students and I tell them how proud I am of them. I normally really enjoy meeting everybody's families and putting faces to names. But this year especially, even though I can't be there in person with you all, I feel especially proud of you. It's been a really difficult year for all of us. For us as faculty, for the staff who support you all the time, but also for each of you. I know that everybody has gone through a lot and your families have gone through a lot, and some of it we know and some of it we don't, and I'm just amazed that we're all here at this point and that we're all still standing somehow, and you have a bright future ahead. The last year has been hard, so all I can wish for you is that the coming year is going to be so much better. It is going to be a lot of uncertainty. I mean, our last year was uncertain, but there's a structure to school. And I know that many of you are worrying about what's going to come and what the future is. And I just want to remind you, because I was also a student a very long time ago, that life is long and you have a lot of time to work things out.
This is a big milestone for you. I hope your years at Stanford have been inspiring and given you a lot of curiosities. And I hope you remember to follow them in the long journey ahead of you. My very best wishes to you all.
Hello, this is Professor Barbara Voss from the Department of Anthropology, and I am just chiming in to add, we're so proud of the incredible accomplishments you've made during this extraordinary time. And I also want to thank your friends, your families, other people who have supported you through this journey and who have allowed us to be involved in your education. I wish you all the best as you go out from here, and I hope you will always view the Department of Anthropology as a touchstone and a foundation for your future endeavors.
This has been a difficult academic year for our graduates, trying to stay focused on Zoom classes. The fact that someone graduates from Stanford in any year is testament to their hard work and commitment. But to graduate in 2021 is even more of an accomplishment. I don't have to tell you that you're graduating into a world faced with deep problems that are not easily solved. But it's also a world of opportunity for young people that are well-credentialed, as you are today, and have the energy and commitment to justice and making things better in whatever ways they can, through their work, their volunteering, their community activities, and their faith. I honestly believe your generation will meet the challenge ahead in ways that make things better.
Hi, congrats to all of the graduates. I want to take the opportunity to thank all of the people who have helped me on my PhD journey over the last 6 years. And these include my classmates who are amazing scholars and my dissertation committee who's provided unwavering guidance to me. I also want to thank programs at Stanford that have helped me as a first-generation college student, and these include the EDGE program and the DARE program. Hope to see you all sometime in the future.
I'm very excited to graduate this spring, but I'll definitely miss the Anthro department at Stanford. My advice to other undergrads is to take advantage of everything you can do at school. Study abroad, attend a field school, do research on something you're passionate about, and only take a class if you're really interested in it. I'm so grateful for the friends I've met and the experiences that I've gotten to have through the Anthropology department.
I'm really excited that the Anthropology department is able to incorporate and encapsulate diverse voices to better understand the world, especially Indigenous voices. I'm very happy about that. Every staff that I've interacted with, every student that I've interacted with, they've been so helpful in understanding and guiding and learning from each other the different ways of culture exists. And I'm very happy to be a part of that very supportive and uplifting environment.
Through the Anthropology department, I've had one of the most amazing opportunities I've had at Stanford in my career, whether it be, interning in Costa Rica for a summer, working with Costa Rican youth in ecotourism and sustainable development, or go on a BOSS overseas seminar to Delhi and have this amazing lens and readings and conversations with students in India about the multi-livelihoods, the multiple ethnicities, the tensions. I'm so lucky to have been able to major in anthropology at Stanford. I will carry on so many of the questions. I will continue to ask questions because there are so many nuances in life beyond our perspective, our imaginary, that are so important and integral to social change, to justice. I can only take all that love and support that I've received from the Anthropology department and share that on to the world.
My congratulations to all of the graduates.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
Brava.
I just wish all the best for all of you.
恭喜 and mazel tov.
Congratulations on your hard-earned degree, and best of luck in your future, both professionally and personally.
And with that, I'd like to congratulate you all and also congratulate your families who've understood that your investment in anthropology is one of the best investments you could possibly make.